I'm May, owner of Smitten Bookstore in downtown Ventura, California. We sell romance books as well as women's literature and gifts. We have a full event calendar. So there's something kind of for everybody from book clubs to writing club to book swaps to even tarot reading.
Welcome to Love Letters and Books, a podcast for anyone who loves a good story. This is a soft space to explore romance and books where no topic is too taboo. I'm your host, Casey, and this week I'm sitting down with bookstore owner Mae Tingstrom. Mae is the owner of Smitten Books in Ventura, California, and I just so happened to meet her while I was in the store browsing the darkest of the dark romance book selection. I was really drawn to the space, the energy, the curated selection, and I was thinking about just how special it is to have a space like that so near me where I can walk in and almost everything in the space is exactly what I love. It's basically my TBR list come to life. I thought that was so beautiful, and I really wanted to sit down with May and have a conversation about what it's like to dream up that space, to build it, to curate it, to pour your heart and energy into it, and to hold space for other readers wherever they are on their journey, whether they're new to romance, new to reading, or if they're not quite sure what they like. So I sat down and spoke with May about all that Smitten offers to the Southern California community, particularly in Ventura, where it's located. We also talked about the genre in general and some of the feedback that May receives from readers and people just visiting the store, what it's like to meet people who are approaching with curiosity or a little hesitation, maybe a little resistance, whether it's coming from inside themselves or the world around them. And make sure you stay to the end of the episode to hear May's love letter to her younger self. So May, welcome to the Love Letters and Books podcast. I am so glad you're here.
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Great. Well, great. I know. I feel very giggly. Like I'm very excited
We're on
to
a
talk to
first
you.
date.
We're on a
Like,
first date. But
we're on
here's
a
the thing. We met once before, and that's
yeah.
an important aspect of this episode because I planned my ideal day in Ventura. And I went down there and I was like, there's this incredible bookstore that I've heard about. They've got the best media. They're always talking about all of their incredible events. I have to go there. So I went to the beach. I went to the pier. I got a burrito. I did all the things that, a girl needs to do.
Yeah.
And then I was like, and I'm going to spend a full hour in this bookstore and just devour everything and be in this space. And I walked into Smitten and I immediately fell in love. So I would love, before we kind of get into my experience there, I would love for you to talk about what it means to you and why you created it.
I think it started with the fact that I wanted something that didn't really exist. I always wanted to be part of a book club, and I kind of forced my friends to do a book club with me. But all I was interested in reading is female authors, female protagonists, more romance the better. And they were into it, but they weren't taking it super seriously. We would meet and everybody would be like, "Oh yeah, this happened to me or this happened to me or this was my week." And I'm like, "You guys, this is book club time. We're supposed to be talking about books." And I would get all serious about it. So I started looking into what other book clubs were available in person, and I only really found one, and they had a waiting list. So that kind of got my wheels turning of there's obviously other people that also would love to meet in person and talk about books and read books together. And so I was like, well, I've been wanting to do a retail store. That was actually my dream growing up, is wanting to own a retail store. However, I knew how hard it would be as far as competing with online shopping. And I just couldn't visualize it for so long as far as what it would look like. And I didn't want to just sell just things. I wanted there to be a community around it. I realized whenever I would travel, I would look for the independent bookstores. And that started blending in with my idea of wanting this book community. I was overwhelmed by the idea of doing like a general bookstore, just the magnitude of what that would look like. That made me nervous. That made me scared. But when I thought about what is my favorite genre, what is the one that I want to talk about the most, it was romance for sure, hands down. So yeah, that's what kind of led me into the idea. And then I hadn't even realized that a romance bookstore was like a thing already. So when I started researching, I found The Red Bodice, I found Meet Cute in San Diego. And at first I was like very intimidated. I was like, well, they're already doing it and they're killing it. And I don't know if I could even do the same thing or do it as well. And I don't remember who it was, but they were like, it's not really like you'd be in competition. You're in Ventura and they're in LA and San Diego. So yeah, I was like well, we'll see how this goes. And I was very lucky to have found a space literally when I decided I'm going to do this.
And I love that your store, Smitten, was part of my perfect day. That was what I imagined would be part of a perfect day. So I think back to May when she was thinking of this idea of building this place, and then fast forward, and your space that you've created is what someone puts on their like dream board for how they want to spend their one day off and the thing that would be most relaxing and restorative to them. So you never know, right? And it's really important to kind of trust the things that stand out to us. So I love that you've built this. I also love hearing about your experience with wanting a book club. So that's a big thing for me. I've very much wanted that for a long time, and it was sort of a topic of conversation in this town's Facebook group. People were talking about it this month of why don't we have a book club? Why don't we do these things? And I fear that I too would be the person who took it really seriously. So I would need that type of club. And I love that you have those offerings in your space. And I definitely want to ask you more about that. But for people listening, I want to talk about what it was like to walk into Smitten, because not everyone has one of these spaces in their town. And I really just want to touch on why it's so important, why I was so excited to talk to you. And that's because I walked in and immediately I felt like my nervous system exhale. And I was like, oh, I'm home. This is exactly where I want to be. Everything was just, it was just everything I love was covering the walls. It was overstimulating in this really beautiful way. And then the best part was I'm just perusing books and, looking at all the authors I love. And I was overhearing the conversation. And that's what really hit me about why it's important to have these spaces. Because I was hearing women speak about things that they love and that they're excited about without shame, without self editing. It was just effusive joy. There was a ton of giggles and people just talking about what they love. And I overheard one conversation. It was a group of people who'd never met before, who were all in the LC Silver section, talking about this genre of romance they love and what they couldn't wait to happen and who was their favorite character. It was just this outpouring of, I don't know, light energy, just positive. Not that fear of someone mocking or saying it's not serious enough or it's not this or it's not that, which sometimes happens when we talk about the things that we're interested in. So that really stood out to me. And I took that with me when I left the store too. It followed me. And I guess that's what I really wanted to talk to you about being the type of person who's creating that space where people can go and exhale and find the things that they love and be exposed to things that they didn't even know that they love and meet their favorite authors and attend your events. So now that I have totally made this first date uncomfortable and you have to marry me now, let's talk about that a little bit.
I mean,
What's it like to know that you create that type of space? I mean, kind of, I don't know, how do you
I don't
feel?
know. I think I just created a space that I wanted. I don't know if I like thought about it that hard. I just wanted to make a space that was in my head that I wanted. And it's just a hope that other people would also like that as well. And, you spend most of your life in school. And then for me, I got a corporate job and I just felt like this isn't fun. And if you're going to spend this precious life, this one life you have. I really wanted to be having a good time. And I think that's maybe what people feel when they walk in, and why it feels maybe welcoming is that I just want to have a good time. I just want to talk to people. If I sell a book, that'd be awesome. But I'm also not bitter or whatever if they don't, you know? And then I don't know, it's fun because when I'm in the store, I don't really feel like I'm selling things. I feel like I'm just chatting it up and people want to know like what was your favorite book? Like what have you read lately? So that's super fun that people look to me for guidance, and I don't know if I have the best advice, but yeah, it's super fun. It is also interesting that when you commented about other people being in the store, sometimes I like walk over to talk to somebody about what they're looking at or if I can help them. I'll point out a book and I'll be like, "Oh, I just read this one and I really loved it." And then another customer will be like nearby and they'll be like, "Oh my God, it is super good." And then they're like basically doing my job for me. They're like, telling the person like, "Yeah, just read it," and then all of a sudden they're, like, doing their thing,
Mhm.
and then I'm, like, third wheel in this, and I'm like, "Alright," and I, like, skeet back because 'cause I'm like, "They're hitting it off," and I think in, like, another life, I must have been a matchmaker because that kind of thing, I don't know, my soul, like, soars when, like, 2 people that hadn't known each other prior are now connecting over something. So that's maybe part of the energy when you walk in is that without doing it mindfully, I like to matchmake people. Whether
Yeah.
it's a book, whether it's a product, whether it's a person, with events, bringing people together so that they can also connect. And hopefully, we've had book clubs where people are like leaving and they're like, yeah, like let's meet here, like to get like a drink or some food together. And I'm like, like, I'm like, I feel like I'm a proud mom.
Oh, I love that feeling too. No, that
Yeah.
makes perfect sense. And that was the energy I felt from you, right? When you and I met, I was there just being the dark little rain cloud I am in the dark romance section,
Oh,
looking at all of my
sweet.
favorite authors. And it felt so natural. And I think that there must be something that gets created in that space where people feel like those walls we sometimes walk around with can kind of come down a little bit and we can just be in that space together. So I really felt that when I walked in there, and I can't wait to talk about more of what you do because you seem to have a very full calendar of events, and I'm so interested in that. And I want to pick your brain a little bit about the romance genre in general and almost how things that we're interested in or gravitate to are perceived. So I'll guess the example I'll give you is people will say, what do you like to read? And someone will respond, and then it's like, oh, that's not a serious book, or oh, that's not this, or oh, that's not that. Which, to any woman listening, I'm sure we're used to that response to anything that we're interested in. But I think I like to push back on that a little bit because I think storytelling is important. I think it's how people shared their experiences, how they shared lessons. And so often when I'm reading a romance book, there are powerful messages that are coming through and are being shared. One of the examples I'll give is I recently interviewed Bailey Hanna, and her first book out of the gate was talking about domestic violence. And it was in a country romance book that someone could dismiss. But I spoke to her in the interview and I said, while I was reading your book, I kept thinking someone's going to read this and it's going to save their life. And it's not the direct messaging of, call 911 if this happens, but it was saying, this is abuse. Maybe no one's talking about it, but it is.
Mhm.
And you deserve more. So I love that messages are coming through, whether it's something serious like that, or even an exposure to experiences with sex and sexuality and intimacy that maybe people have not been exposed to. And it's their first time hearing about certain things and learning. And these books are not guides, but they're maybe your first exposure to something. So I just laid a ton on you, and I want to hear what you think of this genre and its importance and maybe some of the pushback it gets.
Ooh, like I was literally nodding my head the whole time you were saying all of that because I completely agree. I mean, I think you said it way better than I could have said it. I was just talking to my friend the other day about this and like she was saying, because I always talk about like that we're all human beings, we're all sexual human beings, and I hate the fact that it's something that is so taboo to talk about, that we can't talk about sex, or we almost act like we're not sexual beings, like, for whatever reason. So I talk a lot about romance being something that you can try out almost, like, would I be into that? Or maybe I'm not into that. It's like a safe space to witness almost, or like experience in a way where you're not having to like fully put yourself into those positions yourself. But then my friend was telling me about the fact that, because she's single right now and she's been really struggling to like date, and she really wants to find that partner. And she said that reading romance is nice for her because she likes when people are dedicated to another person. Like that actually exists. Even though we're reading fiction, it gives her hope. And then she also just likes the grand gestures, the things that we can do for the other people in our lives. And that, we've heard it before, that like when you're in a relationship, it's work. You have to work at it. And I think a lot of the romance books are really shining a bright light on that too, is that it is work. I don't know. Am I saying that correctly? I don't
You
know.
are, I'm hearing you. I didn't want to cut you off, but I definitely am resonating with everything you say. And I think there's so many elements to it. One, I think it can help repair. Some of us did not have positive experiences. I think part of the attraction to YA for older people is that, oh, it's like sometimes you get to experience something you didn't have before. And it's just, for us, it can feel like fantasy. I didn't have a childhood worth talking about. And sometimes when I read books about people at different times in their life, it almost heals that for me, because it's like, oh, great, I get to observe this or feel what that would feel like. Meanwhile, I was in a much different space. But then also thinking of challenging maybe the idea we have of partnership and intimacy and what we want. We can all get into ruts in our minds and our lives. And I think that that's a really powerful thing in this genre, is that it's exposing people to all of this potential and possibilities, and you get to decide what resonates for me. What did I like? What did I not like? Oh, I didn't realize I would like that in a partner. I didn't realize caretaking was an important part of a relationship. I just couldn't quite put my finger on it before I read about that. Or I
Mm,
didn't realize, these needs are not being met. Or maybe that I didn't like the language someone else was using, but what that guy said works for me.
mhm,
I think that
mhm.
that exposure can really help. And man, isn't that just a threat to the world when women know what they like and feel
Right.
confident and feel
Yeah.
comfortable? And I love how disturbing that is to people on some level, because it's like, oh, just women feeling happy and satisfied and knowing what they like. And it's deeply troubling to some people. And I just
Yeah.
honestly, I think it cracks me up. So anyway, I don't know if that's what you were thinking, but that's sort of what I was getting from what you were saying.
Yeah, absolutely. I hear people outside of the store, just like literally yesterday, a couple was kind of looking at our display windows, and the gal was like, "Oh, it's just a smut store." And they're
Mm.
kind of still like looking inside. And I was standing right there and I was like, "We're more than just that. Come on in. Like, see for yourself." Like, we have a lot of local art in the store. We have self-care books. Romance is our biggest genre in the store, but we also have kind of a little something something for everybody. I don't get upset with the word smut because I will call a book amazing smut. Like, yay. That's like saying that, when you walk into a bookstore, like, "Oh, all these books are tragedies," or like you're just like pigeonholing
Yeah.
like the whole genre into one thing, which I just don't think is super fair to do. For example, like Abby Jimenez talks a lot about relationships with your family and with your parents, and she really kind of like dives deep into those relationships that have built you into the person you are, and how you're struggling with making a connection with a romantic partner, right? So I'm just like, come in and like see for yourself. And I get really excited when men come in and they want to
I
they
brought
want
one
to read
in.
it. When they want to
He
read
was
a romance book, I'm like, we're
yeah.
winning.
No, that's great. Well, I think it It kind of reminds me of that phrase, contempt prior to investigation. And I think that's something that as a society, it's just sort of woven into our culture of jab first, think later. And very often when I hear things reduced, and again, I don't have a problem with the word spice, smut, any of that, it doesn't bother me. You know, the tagline for this podcast is where no topic is too taboo. I used to be a therapist. I'll talk about anything. I love all that stuff. I think it's part of the human experience. But I also really do think it's reductive. You know, we're talking about a 500-page book where most of the book is about problem solving, communication, intimacy, vulnerability, care, like all of these things and our needs. And to reduce it to either a few pages or chapters about this one area of our life that's very common human experience. We all have a sexual life. I just think it's kind of funny how it only happens when women do that. And I think about all of the media produced by men and how it's a think piece and it's so deep and it's so, life changing and thought provoking and philosophical. And it's like, yeah, well, you abused women through 90% of it. And it's weird that we don't talk about that.
Mhm.
And all of the women are unhappy and unresolved and they're side characters. But you'll talk about a genre where women are present and taking up space and they are multidimensional characters that we can relate to. So I think I really just always want to push back against that. And I don't know. I feel like the people who are most resistant are probably the most curious, but they feel like they can't enter that space, right? So I think it's so wonderful that you have this warm energy that's so inviting of, hey, we're more than that, and you can find that here and you can find all these other things is really powerful.
I would love to like change people's mind. I think some people just are just very quick to say, "Oh, that's not for me."
Yeah.
Because maybe they've met somebody else that, like, loves that genre, but they don't themselves connect with that person. Like, it kinda reminds me of when I was in high school and everybody wore the Misfit shirts, but I didn't resonate with the fans that loved the Misfits.
Still my
So, I
favorite
didn't
bands.
I know, right? So, I perceived that as like,
Yeah.
"Oh, well, the Misfits are only for, like, this type of person," but I didn't see myself in those fans, right? So,
Mhm.
I just, like, completely discounted the Misfits completely because I didn't see myself in the fans. So,
Yeah.
and then it wasn't until, like, later in my life where I had gone to, like, a cover band covering the Misfits just randomly, and I was like, "What is this?
I wanna
Why
go where eagles
is"
dare.
like,
You know what
I
I mean?
exactly, I'm like, "Why does this speak to
Why
me?"
do I
And
love this song?
but it was like I had just discounted it completely because I didn't see myself in the fans, right? So, I
Yes.
think a lot of times that will happen with romance because you don't see yourself as someone that you know that likes that. I have quite a bit of people that come in and they're like, "I've never read a romance book in my life. What should I read?" And I'm like, "I got you." I first talked to them about, like, what kinda things do you like? What have you read that have really, like, spoken to you? And a lot of times I'll pick a book that I wouldn't necessarily consider it complete romance. It's just
Mhm.
that, like, one of the plot lines is the romantic part of the book, and I say to them, I'm like, "If you read this book and you're very interested in the romantic relationship of this book, then you're ready for the next step."
Yeah.
Of, like, read a book that, like, sways more heavily onto, like, the relationship, the romance part of the book. I'm definitely not someone that's like, "All your feet's in," like, at once. I learned
I
my hard way
appreciate
that,
that. It sounds like
like
you're a very compassionate guide into that universe,
yeah,
and
like
and
a
we don't
hard
know where people are coming from, right? And it's so funny, it made me think of over 10 years ago, I lived in LA and I was the director of a cancer support center. So I was doing all the programming, running support groups, leading a lot. And one of the programs I put on the calendar was a women's sexual health workshop for cancer survivors. And immediately, everyone was like, "No one's gonna show up to that. You should take that down." I was like, "Really? Are we really sure no one's going to show up for my breast cancer support? Like, no one's going to show up to that?" And it was the most well-attended workshop that we had ever done at the center, ever, even before I was hired. And when I was leading the workshop with my best friend who works in that space as well, we were hearing all the hesitation of oh, I've been through this horrific experience. My body's changed. My spirit has changed. Emotionally, I've changed. Everyone's seen that as almost like an afterthought. Like it wasn't important. It wasn't an important part of my life. And so when they finally got into this space and kind of moved past that thing that said, oh, that's not important or that's silly or whatever that was, just to be in that space with women and like talk about things and answer questions and ask questions, it's so healing. And I feel like it's really grounding and helpful. And I don't know. It just something about what you said about that reminded me of that, of the preconceived notions and how we almost cut ourselves off from something that might open our world up
Oh,
before,
absolutely.
just
Yeah.
based on our programming or like what the people around us are saying. And I thought it was funny on our pre-production call when you were like, and then I saw you in the dark romance section and it didn't like something about it didn't fit. I was like, I am dark romance to my core. And I
I
feel like
I
it's
I
in glowing
absolutely
red lights above my head, but apparently it's not.
I love that when, like, as human beings, we tell ourselves, like, "I'm not gonna judge somebody," but we all, like I mean, that's why we do blind dates at the store
Of
because, like, we
course.
are all judging a book by its cover, like, we don't want to,
Yeah.
but nowadays, you don't even know because, like, the spicier books, you might not know from the cover what's going on with those discreet covers. Yeah, I love the fact that, like, you can be into whatever you wanna be into, and you don't have to, like, make that your full personality. You don't have to walk into the store and be wearing, like, all black, be all gothed out to, like, love a gothic romance. Like
Yeah. No, I was basically wearing pajamas, you could just be honest. And I walked into your store post burrito and I was like, "And I just wanna buy every Chantal Tessier book here, even though I own a different version of it." Like I just that was sort of my space. It's funny. And at work too, I find it really interesting because I work in the podcasting space, but for science and medicine and that kind of media. But people always ask, we always talk about our creative projects. And I've had a long time mental health podcast for like 5 years. People know about it, they listen to it, and they knew about this project. And they're like, so what are you doing? And I was telling them it's this book podcast and this is what I talk about. And they're like asking me about all these hard hitting books. They're like, are you talking about that? I was like, let me just break it down for you. My favorite thing, like if you wanted to seduce me, it would be a book about a killer clown in a corn maze with an axe and a summer camp and like something weird niche horror drama would be like my thing. So you never know what people like, but yeah,
Yeah.
I kind of
I
lean
love
into it. This is the
I love
space where we talk about the things we love without that self-consciousness. So
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
absolutely. I love that, like, when somebody comes over to the dark romance section, they know more than I do. I'm
I love that. I love
"Tell
that.
me, like, you tell me what I
You tell
what
me
I
who's
should do."
next. Who do you like to read? What are the books that are lighting you up? What are the books you're excited about? Just let's nerd out for a few minutes. Give it
Sure.
to me.
I love this. So I actually read all the genres, and, like, if I had to pick one book out of every single book, no matter what the genre is, it would be To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. It's just I feel like everybody needs to read that book. If you haven't read anything in your life, I would suggest that, and then also Pride and Prejudice because that is
Because
that is the catalyst to any modern romance. Those are the 2 books I would absolutely, if you haven't read anything ever, read those 2 books. I know that's not as exciting, so
no. Well,
I'll
listen,
I'll
let's
read
stop
on.
there for a second because you
Oh,
made me
yeah.
think. When your answer, I was like, all right, so what would be my To Kill a Mockingbird? Like, what is my version of that? And I was thinking as you were talking, although I was actively listening, and then I thought, oh, it's without a doubt, I Know This Much Is True by Wally Lamb, or She's Come Undone by Wally Lamb. And I've talked about that book on this podcast before. She's Come Undone absolutely changed my life. And it
Oh,
was,
I haven't read
I
that
would say, a hard read, but it was more impactful than therapy. I would say it really was the guiding light I needed. And I often think about that book when I'm at an internal crossroads or I'm struggling with something. He's
Yeah.
a beautiful writer. And I think part of the reason I respect him so much is because I feel like he respects his characters and what they really
Mhm.
go through, and they're very humanized characters. And he talks about when life takes the turn and the worst thing happens, the thing that you say, if that happens, I'm out. and that happens. And it's just so beautiful. And I think he honors the spectrum of mental health as well. And so those would be and I was thinking about that of like, what would be mine? And it's funny that they're both him. And
Oh,
yeah,
yeah. I think
so
too,
now you have 2 books to add to your
I
list.
know, now I have 2 more to put on my TBR. I think when you find that one book that really speaks to you, it really launches you into the reading world, right?
Mm.
I've heard a lot of people when they're, elementary, high school, they're kinda, like, forced to read, and I think that kind of scares people away from reading because they're books that don't speak to them. So, I do feel like To Kill a Mockingbird, I did not read in high school. I actually read, like, way later. Like, I've always read, but it really launched me into, like, really appreciating a book and it sticking with you. Because before I was just, like, just reading to read. I read a lot of Nicholas Sparks in high school. I just really liked feeling the feels, but then I just kinda, like they didn't, like, stay with me, you know? So I think my favorite book of this year so far in any of the genres is The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gillig. It's the first of a duology. She was also the one that wrote the One Dark Window duology, and I believe it has a different series name, but everybody knows it as the One Dark Window. And her One Dark Window duology is technically YA. It is fantastic. It's got a very fun magical system, and there's romance in there, but it's very YA, which is great still. But sometimes I want something like a little more adult, and I was very happy with The Night and the Moth when she announced that it was going to be an adult romance. I was like, yay! Because she can really create such a wonderful world with her characters, and her characters are so distinct and interesting, and she really can just nail banter. Ugh, I love some good banter between
Love
our
some
2,
good
like,
banter.
love interests. So I highly recommend that book if anybody hasn't read it yet. I know you have to wait for the next one, but I will reread this book before the next one comes out.
Oh, I'm a
Absolutely.
rereader. Let's talk about that for a second.
I'm not really.
I know people though who read something once and they never think about it again. I am a rereader and I have to be honest about it. I do. I have my comfort books. I have the ones I return to all the time when I'm in a certain mood. But are you not primarily a rereader? Like, is this just a unique
I'm
experience?
not.
I
No.
am.
I think it's because I feel like time is limited, so,
Yeah.
and there's so many books out there that I wanna read. When people come into my store, they say something about how many books we have, and I'm just like, "This is my whole TBR." If I had the time, I would literally read every single book that I sell.
Yeah.
But, that's not,
Well, I'll
couldn't
help
really
you out with that,
happen.
May. I've got the other half.
Oh,
No,
good.
absolutely. Yeah, I'm pretty voracious. I think it's a combination of just being in my feels this year, but then also lifelong insomnia. So I'm always up in the middle of the night. And I know people always say the worst thing you can do is turn a light on and read. I'm like, well, then I'm the worst because I love doing it and then I love falling back to sleep. So I can't help myself. Um, no, I love these discussions because I love learning about what people their favorite books are and especially what came out recently and what they're looking forward to. And I really love that we're talking about a few different genres and just what resonates because I think I don't know, you never know what kind of clicks with you and it's not just one thing. Especially if you're a
Yeah.
mood reader and you kind of bop around a little bit. And it is hard. It's so difficult to say, oh, this is my favorite book ever. It's like somebody asking, like, what's your favorite band? What's your favorite song? It's like, well, it is Friday morning in August of 2025. So this moment, my
Yeah,
favorite
that's wrong.
is X, Y, and
Yeah,
Z. But talk to me
exactly.
this afternoon and it's going to change. But
Oh, yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
absolutely right. I will say for me that my favorite books of the year that I read I have my top 3. So I would say Madness by Chantal Tessier because I just love this complex world that she's built. I eat it up. And I'm one of those people who has like notes for every book so that I can sort of put together my theories for her next books and read all the intersecting worlds. So that's my sort of like nerd out and dive deep. But then I found this other author who I'm absolutely obsessed with. She knows I am because I've told her. Her name is Jennifer Ivey, and she wrote this just incredible series that I ate up called A Killer's Love. And I
Okay.
have read all 3 books. She has 2 more books coming out, and I cannot wait. Like, it's one of those things where, as people who love books, you know what it's like when you're waiting for that next book in the series, and you're just
Oh, yeah.
like, "Ugh," I reread the whole series, like, in preparation because her next book is coming out in August, and I was like, "I'm just gonna prep and reread the first 3," like an absolute lunatic. And then my, like,
I don't think that's
long-term
crazy at all.
no, I mean, I sound a little nuts. I'm sure I scare her with all my videos I make about her books because I love them, but then also it's just the way she writes. I mean, she just I don't know, it's just like lightning striking. And then just my gold standard is Penelope Douglas. She put out Five Brothers, and everyone was like, Five Brothers, that was like one of your favorite books. I'm like, I related to one of the characters so hard. I was like, are you reading my diary entry? Like, it was just this beautiful book. And I think that she really highlights arrested development as a result of trauma. And I feel like it's a common theme in a lot of her books. And for people who've experienced it, sometimes it's this thing that people kind of assume happens, but they don't really see what it looks like in real life and how awkward it can be. And I feel like she does it so compassionately in her books. You see it in the Devil's Night series and a few of her other books. And in that book, I was just like, it broke my heart. And I was like, oh, I love this. I love this family. I love all the things that they go through and how she writes about them. So those are my top 3. And I just can't wait for the next books in all the series. So
Yeah.
try to be patient. Is there anyone else on your list that you just absolutely love?
So, because you were talking about dark romance, one of my favorite authors is K.M. Moranova. Do you know her?
Obsessed, obsessed. And
Obsessed.
we're gonna go deep because we're gonna talk about this for a second. So I'm so glad you brought this up. Please share, May.
Well, I started with Fabric of Our Souls, and I just I think throughout it, I was, like, kind of questioning my own sanity a little bit, but I, like, also, like, really loved that too. And then from there, I read Leave Me Behind. I'd never read a dark military romance before. That was my first. I will scream from the rooftops, that is probably by far my favorite dark romance I've ever read. I loved, like, the enemies to lover, like, really enemies to lovers, like, there are
Enemies. They
like, are
enemied hard.
they're, like, the epitome, like, I can't think of another book at this time that is that level of enemies,
Yeah.
like, legitimately trying to kill each other. God, I just love that book so much. So then, of course, I have to, like, go and read literally everything she's ever written, and then now I'm
I do.
currently reading, an arc of Your Knife, My Heart. Am I saying that correctly? Yeah.
I love her. I am so glad you brought her up because I think I'm just inspired by her in many ways. First of all, she's an incredible artist. That's
Oh,
another side note. She does all of her
oh,
artwork. It's stunning. But then
absolutely.
the stories, I fell in love with her characters. Even when you're supposed to hate them, you're
Yeah.
absolutely in love with them and eating them up. And I first read Leave Me Behind. That was the first book of hers I read. And then I just realized I loved her writing style. And I kind of did the thing that I always do, which is a little embarrassing, where I read everything everyone's ever written
Oh, yeah,
from
same.
their very
Same.
first blog post till now, which seems a little excessive. But I did. And I read The Fabric of Our Souls. I think I had a very similar experience to you where I was like, wow, they're bringing me into this institution with them. Like I'm on that journey. And then I read A Ballad of Phantoms and Hope. And I read it at this very sensitive time in my life. And honestly, it was so healing. And it wasn't even supposed to be that. The book wasn't about what I was going through. And it just brought up every feeling to the surface that I'd been unable to tap into. And I just loved it. I felt like it was such a beautiful, beautiful story because it also highlighted the journey of a side character, right? Like some of us can walk through the world and feel like a side character. And then all of a sudden she's shining a light and being like, no, he has a beautiful story too. It's just a different story. And I just, oh my God, I loved it so much.
I think she just has a very special way of making a character very, like, strong, but they also feel the feels. And I think that's like really hard to do a lot of the times because as a reader, you're like, but aren't they supposed to be a badass? Like, why would they all of a sudden be scared? What the
Mhm.
heck? I don't know her magic, her
Her
she's
particular brand of magic, whatever she does.
yeah, like she's able to like really capture this human essence of yes, you can be an assassin, but you also are not just like a cement wall, right? She's probably one of those ones where I think I might get like a little starstruck if I was to meet her.
Oh,
One
yeah.
of
Well, welcome to also hosting a podcast and cold calling all of these authors that you love and inviting them to come on, and everyone has been so responsive and so generous, but you always have that feeling of like, "Hey, I'm just a person you've never met reaching out telling you that I love your words, I love the way your mind works." But it's so interesting when that does happen. I have interviewed all of these people who I love to read, and it brought up a lot of what is the cathexis? Like, what is my emotional response to their books and why am I so attracted to it? And I had a particular interview with CR Jane, and I thought about why do I feel so connected to her writing? And it was because, oh, I've had this very difficult year. And every time I had a difficult thing, I had her book with me. And it would be the soft book that I could just no hard edges. I could just melt into her books when I was dealing with this really hard thing. And so it was so beautiful to talk to her. So in some ways that was my like emotional white whale and it was just a really beautiful episode. But I'm so grateful to be able to talk to people. And that kind of segues me into some of the things that you're doing in your space because you're having author talks and signings. And I mean, I probably can't list all the things that you're doing, but can you tell us a little bit about that? Like what goes on at Smitten and what can people kind of expect?
when we first opened, I was like, absolutely we're gonna have book clubs because that was the thing I couldn't find. So it started with a couple of book clubs, and then the more I met people in the store and really like connected with them, I just asked them, I'm like, "Hey, you're really into this genre. Would you want to host a book club here?" And I was very fortunate that, 6 different people wanted to host book clubs. So we have 6 different genred book clubs, kind of something for everybody. That was just really great. So I don't have to personally host every single one. I mean, at first, I joined literally every single book club. I read 6 of those plus all the other books that I was reading, and then at some point, I teetered off, and I was like, "Okay, I can't. This is starting to feel a little stressful." So now I join at least 3, if not 4, because it's kind of my time to be able to, like, actually talk about a book from my own personal feelings. We do indie author signings too, where they might not have as big of a following to do, like, a full author event, but I want them to be able to have a space in the store. So, we will sell their books on consignment because they're indie, they're able to sell their own books themselves. Traditionally published authors are not allowed to do that. We have them set up a table at the front of the store and they kind of make their own little table display, like kind of very similar to like a convention where an author will have like their own table. And then we help sell their books. A lot of them are local, which was
Mhm.
really exciting to find out that we have quite a bit of writers in the area.
That's so
Uh,
cool.
yeah,
I'm not really locked into that, so I'll definitely pick your brain when we're done with this because I would love to know. I mean, you and I are fairly local to each other, so
Yeah, I
yeah.
personally really love reading indie authors,
Mhm.
and I think more than half of my list of books I've read are indie published authors. And of course, I read the traditionally published too, but it's almost like when you like it's very similar to music, where when a book's like really overly hyped, just like a song is like overly played, you're like, okay, all right. And then when you find that indie band that just really speaks to you, yeah, it's the best. It's the
Oh,
best feeling.
you're speaking to my heart right now. That's exactly how I feel. It's most of my TBR, and it's been really nice to connect with indie authors as well and just say, "Hey, I've got this little space, this little corner of the internet. I'm in people's ear, and I'd love to talk to you about what it is that you do and how you do it." And as someone who loves writing, loves story. I just want to unpack all of this with them and kind of pick their brains. And no, I've been having a really great time doing it. I'm assuming you are too, because we're both glowing as we're talking about these little spaces that
I
we
think it, like,
create. So,
goes back to, like, the, like, matchmaking too. Last year, we had a author influencer mixer, which was super
oh,
fun. So we invited a bunch of book influencers. We had 3 traditionally published authors just to kinda have the star part of this the I don't know how do you say that? Like, just kind of
almost
the
like a
draw.
music festival. You're a
Yeah.
headliner, right?
Yes, headliner, that's a good way I'm like, the star, I'm like, "That doesn't really make sense." The headliners. So we had, like, 3 traditionally published authors, and then we invited a ton of indie authors as well, and, we did a bingo card where you had to go around and talk to that person and get
Nice.
their information. We had some prizes that people so, it, like, kind of forcing people to talk to each other because God, I've been to so many, like, business owner mixers, and it's like the people that know each other already are, like, clumped up together, chatting
Yeah.
away, and I'm over here like, I don't wanna really interrupt their conversation, so I guess I'm just gonna, like, stand here and, like, hope somebody walks up to me? I don't know, this is awkward as fuck.
Yeah.
It's like, I think having the space to be able to, like, connect people and force them to connect
Oh, I
is
love that. No, no,
fun.
no, I think it's such a beautiful idea, and, like, what an incredible event to bring people together, speaking to your matchmaker heart, that makes a lot of sense. So, well, maybe I'll come to the next one if I get an invite. I think that would be
Yeah,
really fun.
I've been
I'm
thinking
not an
about
influencer, but I'll
well, you technically are, like,
Oh,
yes.
I don't know. It was funny. I was talking to someone on another podcast recording, and it hasn't been released yet, but we were talking about it, and I was like, "I don't know. I don't have a great personality, but I can do a
Right.
podcast, so I'll do that part of it, and I'll ask good questions, and that'll be sort of my role." But all of the events you had on your calendar, I would show up to every single one of them. I was so excited when I found you and saw everything that you're doing. It just felt like it was all the things I love in one space. So, May, before I let you go, there's this one question I used to ask when I was a therapist, and I would ask new patients, "What do I need to know about you in order to give you the best care possible?" And I would ask that because it was like, what's the thing about you that I don't know that may not be obvious right off the bat? So I'm trying to introduce that more into this podcast. I'm kind of wondering, what is it about you that I don't know that you'd love to share?
I would love for people to know that I am a very, like, transparent person, and I love to help people if they wanna talk about or ask me questions about owning a bookstore. I also own a coffee shop as well. They're 2 separate businesses, but I love helping people if that's their dream. I would love to assist in any way. I will be honest. I will tell you, like, the good and the bad and the ugly. And then also that because we're a indie bookstore, I hope that anybody that comes in feels comfortable in asking any question that they want, whether it's just like they're specifically looking for a trope, if they're specifically looking for like a certain type of sex in their book, we're super happy to help. We're not gonna, as they say, judge you by your cover or whatever. And yeah, so I just want to let everybody know that I am approachable and I'm happy to help in any way I can.
I know someone who's experienced that approachability firsthand. I have to agree with you because I felt like I wanted to hug you after the first time I met you. So,
Uh,
So, May, I just want to say thank you for being so generous with your time today and telling us about Smitten and the things that you're interested in and all of the events you have at the store. But now I'd love to shift into the portion of the episode where I invite my guests to write and read a love letter, either to their younger self, to their reader, to their customer. So I just want to give you the floor for your love letter.
this is like the most awkward part for me, I think. Of I'm a reader and now I have to read out loud. So this is just a little what I wish I could tell myself when I was younger. And the one thing I would have told myself is to stop wishing you were an adult. Don't get me wrong, being an adult is great, But when I was in even elementary school and recognized adults got to make their own decisions, like I could literally be eating cake right now if I wanted. My mindset from an early age through high school was like, hurry up life. I would have told myself to stop spending so much time being frustrated that I wasn't older, stop having adult worries, and to just generally slow down. I just think I just was one of those kids that was just so ready to be making my own decisions. And I think I just kind of feel like I like wanted to rush through everything. And to this day, on my grand opening party for Smitten, we're all having a good time, like, yay, this accomplishment. And I say to my husband, okay, so tomorrow. And he's like, girl, you are literally at your grand opening party that you've been working till like 2, 4 a.m. sometimes on this, and you're
Mhm.
already looking to tomorrow. So I like to like say that to my younger self, but it's also like a very good reminder to my current self. You can live in this moment. Doesn't have to be like what's next. So that's my little something something to myself.
Oh, I love that you shared that with us. And I feel like whoever listens, whenever they listen to that episode, that message of sort of just being where your feet are is so powerful. And sometimes we need that reminder. So I love that you shared that. I have no doubt there was a reason why I heard that today. And I will just trust in that. So, May, where can we find you?
Yes. So we are on Instagram. It is Smitten Bookstore. And then I was smart enough to also make that our URL. So it's just if you can remember anything, it's Smitten Bookstore, Instagram, our website, and we're on TikTok as Smitten Bookstore. I am not posting anything on there, but we love it when people tag us. So we keep that all under our name on TikTok.
I'll make sure to link all of that in the show notes. You have incredible events, and I would love for people, whether they're local or they're visiting, to know about Smitten, know about the space you've created, and hopefully show up for some of the events or to grab a book.
Yeah, our
So,
website has a full event calendar on there. There's
mhm.
also a place on our website if you would like to sign up for our newsletter. I literally only send one out a month because I just don't have the time to like be bugging people all the time about things. So that's a good way to like keep an eye on the different events we have. And then also just started shipping as well. So that's also super fun because we do have quite a bit of like signed books. So that's a great way
Oh.
to get like maybe a special book in your life.
I think you're speaking to our audience. That's the thing we love. So, May, thank you so much for joining me. I hope to see you soon, whether in my town or at your store. I just love this conversation. Thanks for spending time with us.
Oh my gosh, thanks for having me. It's been so fun.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Love Letters and Books, a podcast for anyone who loves a good story. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to follow, rate, and review this podcast on your favorite listening platform. You can find me on both Instagram and TikTok at Love Letters and Books. And if you're interested in being a guest on Love Letters and Books, suggesting your favorite author, or just want to write in an original love letter to yourself or someone else to be read on air, please send me an email at lovelettersandmixtapes@gmail.com.